Yaakov realized that his days on this earth were coming to an end. He calls his beloved Yosef to his bedside and he makes a final request. Al na tikvareni b'Mitzrayim, please do not bury me in Mitzrayim. The Das Kingdom explains to us why is it that Yaakov was so afraid of being buried in Egypt. It explains to us the Das Kingdom one of the reasons was that Yaakov was afraid that the Makos would not be brought to Mitzrayim if he was buried there. Yaakov knew that the Makos were to be brought in the future. He was afraid that if his body was buried in Mitzrayim, Hashem would not bring the plagues, would not afflict Mitzrayim. Therefore Yaakov asked, do not bury me in Mitzrayim. This Das Kingdom is quite difficult to understand. Yaakov thought that a few hundred years in the future, if his mere bones were buried in the ground, Hashem would not bring the Makos. That seems very difficult to understand. The plagues, the Makos, are one of the underpinnings of our entire Emunah system. Reliving them, recounting them each year during Pesach is a tremendous bastion of faith. It's part of what gives us our Emunah, and it is imperative for the world to know these facts, imperative for the Jewish people. Why is it that Yaakov felt that his body being buried in Mitzrayim would be a reason that Hashem wouldn't bring the Makos, when that is something that's so critical, so important for the generations then and the generations now? And I believe the answer to this question is based on an understanding of how important Yaakov Avinu was. The Mesilas Yesharim explains to us that it is an Ilui Gadol, a tremendous elevation to any part of physicality when it serves the tzaddik. When Hashem created the world, everything in creation was created to serve man. Man was created to serve God. When a human being uses this world appropriately, he gives the reason for creation to that particle of physicality. If man abuses this world, if he uses it lara, then that part of the world had no reason to have been created, and quite the opposite. Man is abusing it, man is taking away its very reason for it being created. Yaakov Avinu was, if we may say, the pinnacle, the height of creation. Yaakov Avinu was the center of the universe. When this man walked on the ground, he gave the ground itself reason for existence. But you see, that ground needed the rest of Canaan to exist for it to exist. And Canaan needed the rest of the earth to exist for it to be there. And the earth is but one planet surrounding, circling around the sun. What Yaakov Avinu was doing was using the earth, using the world for its intended purpose. He was giving a kiyum, giving a reason for being for the entire universe. And the importance of such a man is very hard to imagine, very hard for us to recognize. But Yaakov understood, despite his great humility, he understood how central he was and how pivotal he was to all of creation. Because of that, he said, it might well be that Hashem will say, if the bones of this tzaddik are buried in Mitzrayim, I can't bring an affliction to the land. I can't bring Makos, and therefore Yaakov said to his son, please make sure you don't bury me in Mitzrayim. And I believe that this Das Kingdom is a pivotal concept for us to understand the tremendous importance of a human being, the ability of a human being to look at himself humbly and yet understand that for he himself, Hashem would have created the entire cosmos. When a person uses his life properly, when a person uses this world properly, he becomes the reason for creation. He becomes the kiyum, the source of energy for it all, and he becomes the most important existence in the world.